Welcome to the Coach's Hot Seat podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Coach's Hot Seat podcast with Mark Haines, commissioner and publisher of Coach's Hot Seat, the platform that tracks every FBS coach in America by performance, pressure, and contract reality. The 2026 season is getting closer, and preseason expectations are already creating pressure around the country. I'm Sean O'Connor, and today Mark's going to break down the first half of the 2026 preseason Coach's Hot Seat rankings, how he arrives at them, and some of the special sauce that goes into it. Mark, good to see you.
Great to see you, Sean. Great to be with you again.
I know this is like for you not quite peak time, but super busy time. And the question I have to start off is, what are you actually measuring when you build your preseason hot seat rankings?
Great question. So what we're measuring isn't whether the coach is going to get fired or not. We're measuring who's under the most pressure to perform. So whose expectations are the highest? Who are they looking for to win a lot of games and to really turn things around at some of these programs?
Mm-hmm. Why is coaching pressure so real before the season even begins?
Well, there's a series of things that happen. So, you end the last season and maybe things didn't go the way you exactly wanted them to go, but you've got some really nice prospects, on your team that didn't get to play a lot. And then there's the NIL activity or the portal activity that takes place in the off season where players transfer between programs and you kind of shore up there. There are maybe some changes on the coaching staff. So you may have a really great coordinator who shows up who has a great track record and really fits in with your program. And then there's
Create a little buzz.
Right, exactly. And then there's spring football and a lot of other other publications that are writing stories about different things, and there's an expectation that gets set. And so that expectation starts building the pressure on a particular program or coach.
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like you want to be in the conversation, you want to be part of the conversation, but it can get almost too hot. I want to ask you about the how you get. I mean, a lot of the hot seat rankings, I think they rely too heavily on the wrong numbers. Why is that, in your point of view?
Well, I think a lot of writers are under pressure to produce pieces, to publish, right? And so they don't necessarily have the time to take to dig down and to figure out what's really driving something in a particular program. And so they'll rely on buzz, a lot of word of mouth, and they'll be talking. It's not that they're
The grapevine.
Yeah, exactly. They're just looking at something different than what we're looking at. And so they compile those lists based on a lot of times who is probably going to get fired. That's why there's some confusion about what we're doing. We re-rank every week. So we re-rank based on the pressure on the coach and on the program. They're re-ranking on, gosh, do we think this guy's going to get fired or not?
My take is, you're doing a little more in-depth analysis, takes a little more effort. What does your evaluation process look at beyond the basic, say, win-loss columns?
So when we look at, some of the tendencies that coaches have, are they run first? How do they compare to other coaches, that have been at the school and maybe at a rival school? So for instance, with Norvell at Florida State, we compare him to Mario Cristobal and we compare him to Jimbo Fisher. And we look at how did the team perform under those coaches? How did Cristobal's team perform? How did Norvell's team perform? And how did Florida State perform under Norvell?
Their distinctive styles and approaches.
Exactly. And then, where are they strong? Where are they weak? And where do they stack up against each other?
We're talking about, the grapevine in some ways, to put it perhaps crassly, recycling gossip. But, why can public opinion around certain coaches look so different from what, the actual numbers say?
sometimes a particular situation might get magnified. And so there might be one bad game, and that one bad game gets really magnified. You see that a lot, particularly at the beginning of a season. But if you end the season on a bad note, that's a taste that was left in everyone's mouth.
That has a long tail. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some stuff that goes on behind the scenes that maybe people aren't taking into account. They might not be taking into account the player that came from the portal and how he's been developed and he's ready to go. And so the athletic director may sit back and go, I understand what they're saying, but I want to give him some more resources. I want to let this play out a little bit more before we take a multi-million-dollar hit on a buyout.
Yeah. A little more patience than the average armchair manager, so to speak. Let's talk specifics for a sec. Mike Locksley, right? Why does Mike enter at 2026 at the top of your board?
Oh, that's a great question. The conventional wisdom was that Mike Norvell should be at the top. But we put Mike Locksley on top because he's returning almost his entire team. And so it's a very experienced squad. He's made a coordinator change on one side of the ball, but not the other. And the side of the ball where he kept the coordinator was where there was a problem.
Yeah.
Add that he's got a new athletic director, and the new athletic director, he kept him, but he didn't give him a ringing endorsement either. He said that we need to commit more resources. So now Maryland is committing more resources to the football program. They're shoring up their NIL fund, and they're looking to have some payback for that.
What about Mike Norvell? Why does his record look very different? Once you strip away the numbers that are supposedly holding that up, what do you end up with?
His is a really interesting one because if you strip away the two, Cupcake teams that they played last year, his numbers flip from positive to negative. So really, not a lot changed there. The one thing that did change was he had Gus Malzahn running the offense, and the offense really produced. They did a good job. But Gus Malzahn is retired. he's left, and Norvell has taken back play calling. He's on his third coordinator in 3 years, offensive coordinator in 3 years. And lost every road game. And he's not beating teams that he needs to be at least competitive with. There's a ton of one-score games, which could have been a coin flip, and he's on the wrong side of every single one of those.
Yeah, it could have gone either way, but didn't. Yep.
Right, exactly. So it's not just luck there. It looks to us like he's an offensive coordinator, and he's been put in a head coaching position, and he hasn't developed the tactical skills to be a head coach. Like, he hasn't, they're not Knowles, a lot of pride at Florida State. The horse runs out. They have a spear that hits the middle of the field, and the fans get really into it. And, that should translate to the players, and it just isn't.
Yeah. What about Lance Leipold? Why do you think so many people are misreading his situation out in Kansas?
Lance Leipold is a really good coach. Kansas fans, you need to be a little bit patient with this guy because he's good, and he's done a lot for that program.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't schedule Cupcake teams. He schedules real teams. And so, the people want to see real games. And yet, here's the perfect situation of why a coach is hesitant to do it, because Lance has scheduled real teams and he hasn't come on the winning side of some of those. And so the record has suffered a little bit. He's really got a run defense problem. And if he fixes the run defense problem, they're going to have a much different season than they've had the last two. Mm. So the angst there is that there's been 2 back-to-back seasons in a row where they lost more games than they won. But I really think that I don't think Lance Leipold will be on this list, come the end of September.
It's interesting you mentioned the Cupcake games, and it's sort of, I hear in that, like, some of these records, they're not apples to apples in terms of, what it says on paper, in terms of schedules and such.
Yeah, you can do a lot of stat padding with some really bad teams by playing a couple of really bad teams. And, you schedule the Little Sisters of Mary, and then you schedule somebody else like that, and then the stats look really great. The fans are really fired up.
Sure.
If you look at Maryland the last couple of years, that's what's happened. They've gone 4-0, and then they hit the Big Ten, and it collapsed.
It's like, did you see all the people at that Pop Warner game we were at? The parents love to see their kids playing a professional team, or a college team. What about Luke Fickell's fit at Wisconsin? Why? Why is that such a problem? Because he's had a lot of success elsewhere.
Yeah, he came into Wisconsin with a mandate to kind of, to fix some stuff there. And I think in one particular instance, he fixed the wrong thing. He decided to go to a spread offense, and that sunk a couple of coaches. It really sunk, Purdue's coach before Odom. They choose an offensive coordinator who is versed in that spread offense, but they don't know how to adjust to a more physical defense, and so it doesn't work. And that's exactly what happened at Wisconsin. They went to a spread program, and the coordinator was just not a good fit, and it dug a hole for Luke Fickell. And now he's trying something. He's sort of flailing around and trying other stuff. And he's losing now recruits and people in the portal that he's gone after. I just don't think it's a good fit.
It starts to spiral.
Yeah, it starts to spiral, and it's time to make a change when that happens.
Yeah, but I hear in what you're saying though, like the spread itself isn't the issue. It's the adjustments around it that gets people into trouble.
Yeah. You have to know how to. You have to understand the run game. You have to understand how to make adjustments so that you can play a more physical defense. And the Big Ten plays that's a physical league.
Yeah.
So if you aren't able to adjust to that, it's just not going to work.
With that, I'm going to wrap this one up, and but look forward to seeing you on a future episode. Thanks for getting into this. Couldn't be more timely.
Yeah, looking forward to a great 2026 season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be one for sure. That's it for today's episode of the Coach's Hot Seat podcast. You can find Mark's latest rankings and analysis at his website, coacheshotseat.com. So get over there. And as always, thanks for listening. If you subscribe, if you leave us a review, if you leave us a thumbs up, it helps it helps other fans find the podcast. We always appreciate it, and it's a great way to get into the details of the 2026 preseason. I'm Sean O'Connor. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.